Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are known for offense, but I would say the defense stepped up in this one and led the way for a 12-point win, 26-14 over Oklahoma in Oxford. So Ole Miss gets back in the win column at 6-2 with an SEC win. This is our Ole Miss post-game live show. We got Leanne Herron, of course, here, and Leanne is the one who makes it all go for us here with our Ole Miss football coverage. So we appreciate all of you dropping by. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. Leanne, good to see you. How's it going?
Good to see you. Doing good. Quick turnaround from our yesterday show. It was really, Mark, a tale of two halves. In this one, there wasn't anything that was overly crazy, overly explosive, but that second half really was dominated by the Rebels. Kudos to Oklahoma, despite the offensive deficiencies that they had. I think that we had already talked about, I'm sure you talked about your Oklahoma show, that offensive line has gone through some dramatic changes. I believe it was already 7 combinations, and in this game alone, we saw 2 different combinations of offensive linemen mixed up. But again, they put up a fight. I knew it was going to be a low scoring game. It was really a tale of defenses, like they say, defenses win championships, and it was definitely prevalent with Oklahoma and Ole Miss in this one. And again, you have to shout out to Jackson Arnold, because I said, either he was going to fight or flight. But that first half that the Oklahoma Sooners brought up, it was a pleasant surprise to see Jackson Arnold and Joe John Finley find a way to breathe new life into Arnold. We saw him a lot. We saw more of the resemblance that we saw earlier, when he was recruited and why they wanted to bring him to Oklahoma. But again, unfortunately, the deficiencies on that offensive line, and talk about the job well done by this defensive line when Lane Kiffin went out there and went to go recruit at the high school level and at the portal level, power, size, and ability on this defensive front. It showed today, and it carried this team in that second half, completely dominating. I mean, talk about this Ole Miss pass rush had the Oklahoma offense had no answer in the second half, especially, but throughout the game, but predominantly in the second half, for a beefed up pass rush that just really helped carry this team. Like, I know we were both watching this game, and like I said, this was not a score from afar offense by any means. But what I was glad to see is that our offensive line, again, was not perfect. It was not elite, but much improved. And I do believe that helped open up, in our early commitment to the run game, the use of the tight ends we saw today. Caden Priest scored and led the way today with receiving yards to that, and I think we used a lot of different, we weighed on a lot of different assets today on that offense to help us become more efficient. And I think also seeing that red zone efficiency today with the ball distribution, the way the offensive play calling was a big, big win for Ole Miss today. Was it the cleanest game? By no means. We saw them in the first half have some unsettling penalties, and some things that it looked like it might go another way. But again, kudos to the the defensive line and the defense of Ole Miss for adapting, adjusting after being down at the half.
Leanne, if you noticed, it only took one play for your wish to come true, and I thought of you on the very first play of the game. So Ole Miss, if you didn't see the game, folks, drove down the field on the first drive of the game, beautifully orchestrated drive for a touchdown to go up 7-0. But very first play of the game, boom, Caden Priest scoring. You said, I want to see the tight end. I want to see the tight ends utilized more. And Lane Kiffin was
sure enough. No, and sure enough, and we even saw Oklahoma do it, with Oklahoma being out their 5 top wide receivers. Oklahoma tried to work in the tight end, and in that situation, it's just having that big body, when you're down receivers, or, and for Ole Miss, like I said, on our receiving end, being down, with Trey Harris still not being able to have him, but, having people like Jordan Watkins, he had a big game today. He was a little bit shaky in the jump, trying to get his footing, had a little bit difficulty separation, but once he got on scoring, it was great to see them in the second half try to get Juice Wells going when Jackson Dart and that offense finally appeared to be having more of a rhythm that we've seen, because at the early first 4 weeks, Ole Miss had no problem putting up, beating their points by 55 points. But we've seen in this last leg, only being able to score 23 points on SEC opponents. So again, was it the best? Was it the best win? But no, it by any means, there's still a lot to clean up. And there's still a lot of things, but it was good to see that we were able to use the bye week, make some changes, make some adaptment and adjustments. But again, what I really thought was very very efficient was the adapt and adjustment that the defense has made to be able to limit Oklahoma coming into that second half. The defense really helped that change in pace and shifting the momentum so Jackson Dart could be able to operate and get some momentum, because I think that we had seen a little bit of lack of momentum and flow in Jackson Dart in that offense. And like I said, if there was not an improvement in our offensive front, I don't believe Jackson Dart could do what he did. But today, like I said, a lot of improvements, a lot of adjustments. But again, the defense, big winners here, big winner in this one for Ole Miss.
Folks, we've got a new Ole Miss channel, so please support. If we didn't have Leanne, we would not have an Ole Miss channel. So we can thank Leanne for us being able to fire up an Ole Miss channel. We've got an Ole Miss live show each and every week. So please support and head on over to the Ole Miss channel and subscribe there. So I'm going to bring up the good and the bad on the defensive side, but it was mostly good. No question about that. But as I go through the notes here, there were two big penalties in the first half. One was Jared Ivey, who had a remarkable game otherwise, but he had a roughing the passer call on a third down that kept a drive alive for Oklahoma. Then Chris Paul had a horse collar that wiped out really good field position where they had Oklahoma backed up on a 1st and 20. And then that eventually turned out to be the touchdown drive that made it 7-7. And as the graphic let us know, something we've talked about many times here, the two of us, that Ole Miss is 131st in the country in penalty yardage, meaning there are only like 4 teams in the country that have less penalty yardage than Ole Miss. So that continues to be a problem there.
No, you're exactly right, and it's only going to get more difficult. Like we said, there Oklahoma was able to find some kind of footing in the first half to be able to have a little bit of momentum going in offensively, despite all the offensive woes. Jackson Arnold was coming to himself, but again, you could tell that the Ole Miss defense, despite having big plays and playing an overall pretty efficient and productive game, again, those two calls were big game changers. And again, it's the little details, and I can't stress it enough. And the penalties continue to play because I believe that the defense wasn't settled in as it normally was. But again, a great adjustment by the defense. I felt like they were more settled down, finding more pace and realizing and calm down, because you could tell that the momentum and the emotions can sway you, and it was very evident that the Ole Miss defense and I'm sure that they had this conversation obviously in the locker room going in, knowing that they couldn't shoot themselves in the foot on this one, and that was by limiting penalties and trying to limit what Oklahoma could already do.
So there were basically 2 Oklahoma drives consecutively. One where Ole Miss made a phenomenal 4th down goal line stop. Jackson Arnold threw a slant, great pass breakup there. And then the other one that led to a touchdown, a 60-yard drive. And Ole Miss had 3 15-yard penalties because I left out the face mask as well that was in there
Yes.
that led to the touchdown that made it a 7-7 game. So let's see here. Cornerback Kyrie Coleman, I don't know how he's doing or if he was able to make it back in the game, but he had to leave the game for a little while at one point. Also, there was an interesting series in the second quarter where Chris Paul was able to get a fumble recovery. So they got a strip on the running play by Taylor Tatum of
Yeah,
Oklahoma, and then they stripped it right
it
back
went.
from Chris Paul, and then so Oklahoma or Ole Miss fumbled it right back. But then on the next play, Jared Ivey had a strip sack where he just completely blew up the play. When he gets the motor revved up, he is ridiculous and
He
tough to
he
stop.
is. Oh, yeah, you can tell his style, and he put in a lot of off work. I know I'd mentioned it in some of our early shows. Jared Ivey is one of those players that could have easily, you know, gone somewhere else or declared and all this thing. But this summer, he in this off season, he really made a commitment to continue with this program, adding size and power to his frame, and you can tell that it's paid off. He's been a big person on this line, like I said. But to see with this defensive front, I mean, this beefed up pass rush that Lane Kiffin went out there and recruit has really been the bread and butter, the saving grace that has kept Ole Miss in a lot of these games. Because it could have easily, because like I said, the offense is there. It's just, again, that offensive line is still trying to find its footing. And again, applause to them for improving and being able to, commit to the run and helping Jackson Dart get back into the flow. But like I said, when you got Jared Ivey, got Centurion Perkins, and having Princely back today, just having that momentum and his force back in on that defensive lineup today proved to be big. I think it helped shift. And of course, JJ Pegues, you can't help the man that really can do it all, converted tight end to defensive guy. I mean, he's all over the place. So I just think that dynamic has really been a momentum shifter. And like I said, it was good to see that when Ole Miss could have gone into that locker room and easily crumbled, broken down, let emotions get in the way. But the fact that they really held themselves and said, you know what, Oklahoma's up. We need to make these adaptations. We need to make these adjustments. And they went out there and did it, and they translated it onto the field. So again, that was another big thing that I think the way that they reacted to that, they committed to not just talking about it, they translated it on the field, and it proved, because Ole Miss looked like a completely different team coming out in that second half than they did in the first half.
Leanne, what was similar in this game from the last time we saw the Rebels in Death Valley was missing scoring opportunities, and every team does, but they're a little high on the high end of missing scoring opportunities here. They had another drive that was a strong drive down the field, and then they had a 4th and 3 in the red zone, and they went with a end around to Juice Wells, and that didn't work. He got thrown for a loss by Ethan Downs, so that scoring opportunity got blown up after a beautiful drive to that point, and so they left more points on the field going into halftime there.
No, you're exactly right. While they improved, like I said, they were more efficient in the red zone. There was still that tail again, penalties and missed opportunities, where you said they were able to go the distance, but they weren't able to close. And like I said, going for field goals. I mean, we knew that special teams coming in. Speaking of special teams, Micah Davis is another unsung player on that offense that I really would like to see more of. He's done a transfer, who's just he's just a burst of opportunity that I think will be key down the stretch. But again, like you said, it's only going to get more difficult here on out. Next week going on to face Arkansas on the road. We definitely, I believe, as great as a second half that we had, and we were more dominant. Jackson Dart and this offense finally committed to the run, and they looked like they were back to business, like the Ole Miss that we are used to seeing. Maybe not a score from afar with explosive plays, but again, they were dominating, they were controlling. It looked like they knew that when it was time to speed things up. But if you notice that last drive in the game, it was very much, let's slow things down, let's control the ball, let's eat up the clock. Jackson Dart and his offense looked in control. However, that's with that being said, we are going to have to take what we did in the second half, and we're going to have to find a way to do that from the jump, because against Arkansas team on the road, who proved it against Tennessee with that defense that they have, they were able to put, a really efficient quarterback in a bind. And we see that Jackson Dart is still a great and elite quarterback, but he seems like he still hasn't found his rhythm like he normally has in 4 quarters of football. So while we played a more efficient and strong second half, we adapted and adjusted. We're going to now have to translate to be able to stretch it out through all 4 quarters, not just have a strong first half or a strong second half, because that emulates the Ole Miss that we've seen in past years, where we've tried to go the gauntlet and we don't finish it. And I think today for us, again, the defense, the way it stepped up, it really came in there. You could see the momentum coming in. I think what really did it too was that Jackson Arnold being able to get him in a funk after him finding some momentum. I mean, I believe it was 7 sacks. And then those sacks in the second half, I mean, were back to back. Talk about fading his dreams after having an efficient first half. But again, a great performance, a great comeback, as I would like to say, for the Rebels, even though there wasn't a huge gap. We cannot continue to play solely great on one half or the other. It's really going to have to be now. We did really good in the second half against an Oklahoma team who was already suffering. Arkansas is going to have a lot more weapons, and we're not going to get a lot less leniency and wiggle room, as I like to say, when we go on the road in Arkansas. So we're going to have to be just as efficient and dominated from the jump instead of trying to play comeback or trying to adapt and adjust to have a stronger second half of the game like we had the opportunity. Because again, there's going to be more room for penalties, there's going to be more momentum and different kind of things for this Arkansas team looking to continue to fade the dreams of Ole Miss. Because like I said, I think from here on out we have to win out. So every game for us is going to matter, because I think every game is an opportunity, but again, we can't afford to lose them. And Arkansas will come into this game with a lot more power ahead than Oklahoma came into it at home.
Leanne, speaking of Arkansas, did you see the score?
I have not seen the score yet. I have not.
You able to hear
I
this
have
one?
not looked.
You ready
Yeah,
for
let's
this
go
one?
ahead. Yes, let's
Arkansas
hear it.
58, Mississippi State 25.
Oh my goodness. All
Yeah,
right.
58
We'll
today.
talk a bit. Well, all the Rebels are cheering for that any state going down. But like I said, Arkansas is one of those teams. Arkansas is historically been a difficult place for anyone to play, but particularly the Ole Miss Rebels. We've always had a difficult time finding success in a shift. And again, um, they are going to come with more firepower, more locked and loaded into this matchup than what we faced against Oklahoma. Again, kudos to Oklahoma for trying to make all the deficiencies that it had, because I mean, when you just hear about what they were working with offensively, I mean that would break any team down, but they were able to keep their composure, and the fact that with the least amount of assets, they were still able to keep it close in the jump until Ole Miss was find its footing defensively and obviously offensively to widen the gap. Still, Oklahoma for the first half, showed its thing. So, like I said, Arkansas is not going to be it. Arkansas by no means. We won't have that wiggle room or anything like that going in that first half.
Leanne Herring is here after every Ole Miss game for the rest of the season. So the Rebs at 6-2, 4 games in the regular season left, and she will bring us post-game analysis. So we appreciate Leanne. And again, without Leanne, we don't have an Ole Miss channel. So please get on over there and support. So help us out there. You touched on the special teams as well, and I wanted to highlight this because, of course, Caden Davis hit 2 field goals. And also, when this game was still up for grabs, I think it was maybe still 16-14, or maybe Ole Miss had just scored that next touchdown to make it 23-14. Fraser Mason had a remarkable punt that he knocked out of bounds at the 4-yard line that buried Oklahoma with about 10 minutes left in the game.
Exactly. And I think as these games get deeper into play, because we're already here, we're going to see special teams become more prevalent. It's like I said, we were forced to take field goals, and like I said, that just goes to show the job that Oklahoma did to be able to force us into those situations without a lack of depth. Because Oklahoma didn't come into this game, we knew their defense was going to be on point. We knew that it was going to give our offensive run and try to shake it up. But again, the fact that they were able to use the personnel that they had to be able to put us in that tight position than they did goes to speak where we now need to look at our deficiencies. We know our strengths. We know what we can do offensively. We know that our defense is there and it's all point and it's one of the top ones in the country. However, now's the time as we go each game. Now what do we do wrong? Like you said, penalties, getting in those situations, those little details are going to be the difference makers. I truly believe in the upcoming games against Arkansas, when we face in Georgia, of course. Like I said, we're going to have to win out to be able to have the resume when you're looking at a 12-team playoff. No question about that.
I don't know if you noticed at the beginning of the broadcast, the ESPN playoff predictor had Ole Miss at 21%, said that if Ole Miss wins this game, they'll go to 24%. If they lose this game, if they would have lost this game, they would have gone all the way down to not 2%, 0.2%. So that didn't happen, fortunately. So 24% right now. And if Ole Miss is able to win out, it goes to like 76%.
Like a 70. Yeah, it's a significant jump. And then I think post game too, they were talking about, teams in certain situations like Notre Dame and, what's going to come in account because it's going to be close. And like we said, in a conference like the SEC, and you've already touched on this, Mark, and Lane Kiffin has also touched on it as well. There's going to be a lot of SEC teams that are going to be disappointed, at the end of the season, just with the way things pan out, because it's going to really become a game of details when the committee meets. And I believe the polls does first playoff poll come. I don't know if in the next week or two, the first, to see where everything stands. It's coming up
Wednesday.
It'll be next.
Sorry to cut you off.
It'll be next Wednesday.
Not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday. I believe it's November 6th.
So these games here on out, it will not only about winning, but who you're playing, the style points. It's going to come to who can create that separation. So Ole Miss definitely knows, I think, that what they have to do in order to be able to be in that conversation. But again, a much improved effort overall. Defense wins championships, and it clearly has been the stronghold for this Ole Miss Rebel ball club. But again, going into Arkansas now, we're going to have to take what we learned from this game and be efficient in the first, second, third, and then be able to close and finish this game. But again, a lot of improvements, a lot better. But we'll also have to look at penalties because, like you said, those 2 penalties from the jump were momentum changers, and we cannot afford to give Arkansas any room to be able to capitalize on some of our weaknesses early on, because that game again could be another one that could slip away and could shift. And Arkansas has the personnel to be able to control the game a lot better than Oklahoma did today.
There you see it, everyone. Everyone's going to be focused on the Georgia game in 2 weeks, but do not overlook Arkansas, especially on the road. Leanne's been warning us, and I know it too. Arkansas has been a much better than 5-3 football team this year. They've impressed me. I saw them play Oklahoma State. They racked up almost 700 yards of offense in that game. I saw the Auburn game. They took out Auburn on the road. They've played really well. They did have one clunker against LSU. If you want to compare Ole Miss LSU and Arkansas LSU, they didn't come anywhere close against LSU in that one, 34-10. But otherwise, they've had a really strong season. Beat Tennessee, of course, at home. So this is a really good football team, an explosive football team. 58 points on the board against a Mississippi State team that, yeah, they are one of the worst teams in the SEC, but they have played much better the last few weeks.
The second leg, the second leg of the thing.
Absolutely.
And the thing too, it's like I said, that game against Arkansas on the road even makes it more difficult because Arkansas knows that Ole Miss has to win out. So they're just looking, and that puts more momentum, and for Arkansas to come out here and try to be to the dream killer for the Ole Miss Rebels. Not only just to come out with the win, but also to hurt their opportunity and make their dream die of making the playoffs. There's just so many things. I mean, you were looking at that Ohio State Nebraska game. I mean, talk about that. No one expected Nebraska to come out there, but again, we're in that time of the season where some of the teams you don't expect, they come out with the momentum shift again. That's why I said today, and I said it on yesterday during our show, Jackson Arnold, credit to him in this offense. He came out there and it looks like Joe John Finley and him finally found something that worked for him. And he was much better. I mean, he was really mobile on his legs. And that's a Jackson Arnold. I think that for most of us who followed him or have seen him, before he came to the Sooners, know what he's capable of. And I think today it's finally unleashed. He played a little bit more loose. And again, the fact that Oklahoma could be able to, put us in that kind of situations where our backup was a bet against the wall in certain situations and kind of flustered us and got us off that. I mean, if Oklahoma can do it with a lot less, Arkansas, Georgia, and like I said, that Florida game too with DJ Lagway, so every game, like I said, here on out is going to be a tough run, but we're definitely going to have to continue to prove. But the details, the penalties, it's the small things, but in big games, small things, the small details matter. So I'm glad that we get to do the show and actually talk, and we get to talk about a win after, a rough couple runs for the Rebels, but just looking forward, putting the other games in the rear view and hope that they take this time, watching the film and learning where they have to continue to be able to translate what they did so well today and what they didn't do so well today, not just in the second half ball game, but translate them to do that in the first and second quarters as well in the first half of the ball game as we go down the stretch.
No Trey Harrison this one. Jordan Watkins, as Leanne mentioned, with a huge catch when it was still 16-14 on a bomb down the left sideline that led to an 83-yard drive that put the game away 23-14. Otherwise, this one, Oklahoma put up a great effort, and that Sooner defense showed up, but almost too much on both sides of the ball. In this one, 26-14, Rebs win. They're 6-2 and have those 2 losses in the SEC. And there you see the schedule up ahead, trying to hang on for a college football playoff bid. You can join Leanne and myself for Ole Miss Live coming up this week. We will get you the days and times here soon, but we believe Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If I have anything to say about it, I believe that's going to be the date.
I think that's our day too. But because you bring up Jordan Watkins, not only I want to do a special shout out to Jordan Watkins, who just became a new dad of a precious baby girl. So congratulations to Jordan Watkins. He's doing double duty, not only helping the Ole Miss Rebels out on that field, but again, being a new dad. So that's, I mean, you talk about an unsung hero right now, doing dad duty and trying to be a college football player. So congratulations to Jordan and his family for their new Rebel edition. And like I said, and coming out there and having a hell of a game. I know that Jordan Watkins has been a person that Charlie Weiss has nothing but good things to say, and said, we need to get him in there, get him more reps. He's kind of taken on the role of Trey Harris, because it was evident that Jackson Dart and him have that connection, and you want that with the receiver quarterback. So he had a great game today. But again, congratulations to bringing a new Rebel, and for the great job he did on the field today to help the Rebels get closer to one game closer to hopefully a playoff berth.
There you go, everyone. So I watched the game too. I know the stats. I know most of the players, but Leanne knows the team so much better than I do. And then boom, she comes up with this one. I would have never known. Jordan Watkins, new dad. That's a great fun fact. And congratulations to him and his entire family. That's amazing news. That's always a cause for celebration. Jackson, thank you so much. Jackson, we salute you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for dropping the link to the Ole Miss channel. And because Jackson did that, then SEC football just bam says that just subscribe to the Ole Miss channel. So here's the deal, folks. This has worked so well. And I want to thank all of you, because we have started all these channels throughout the years. And this is what happened. I understand that most of you are not Ole Miss football fans, but please, if you enjoy what we do here at the Voice of College Football, just go over there and subscribe to the channel. Just do it. Just please do it, because we build up the audience. This is what we do. We build up the subscriber base. And then once we push it past 1,000, then YouTube starts to take us seriously. And so we've built up, about 20 channels to 1,000 subscribers, something like that. And then, you know what? If you want to unsubscribe, go ahead. Once we get safely past 1,000, go ahead and unsubscribe if you don't want to watch Ole Miss football. But please, if you enjoy what we do, whether you root for Michigan or Oklahoma or Ohio State or whoever it is, please subscribe there at the Ole Miss channel. And once we get to a certain place, then you can leave us there. You've done your duty, and we appreciate it. So that's how we're able to build these channels. So thank you so much for doing that. Traveling Fools, TF, yo. Good to see you. And Jim, thank you. You subbed. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
And of course, you want to check out Leanne's work at the Rebel Walk as well. Any particular articles or anything that you have coming out this week?
Well, we're gonna have, of course, with the big win, we'll be talking to, like I said, we touched a little bit about yesterday in our recruiting segment. There was a lot of big recruits. So not only was this a win for the Ole Miss Rebels on the turf, but a huge win for an array of commit our own old commit, always with our own Old Miss commits, but also our 25s, our 26s, and 27, and even class of 28. We had a couple guys there. So, like, again, Lane Kiffin and his staff said another huge weekend, another huge recruiting platform. So we'll be visiting with them here as they fly out, drive home, getting their reactions on what they liked about what they saw this week. Because again, seeing is believing, and for a lot of these kids, especially our 2025s that haven't committed, we still have a few, and then we had a few other I believe we had like an Auburn commit, Tulane commit, so we have them coming in, even though they're committed to other schools. So like I said, that's what we'll be getting up. And then last night, of course, I made the drive into Houston to go watch Atascocita, number 16 in the country now, and fall to number 8 North Shore at home. It was a game literally much like the LSU game, went down to the wire. Atascocita had it with a minute to go, but again, North Shore and that defense came up big, able to score a touchdown, and with 6 seconds to go, unfortunately, Carday Mack, who is a top Ole Miss recruit, along with plenty of things, was trying to make things happen, but unfortunately, but again, we did a great column with him, kind of talking about his recruitment and his transition from being a running back and being recruited at the collegiate level as a running back, but right now he's full force as a quarterback and continues to impress not only the Ole Miss Rebels but plenty of Texas schools looking to try to keep him home. But so it'll be a big recruiting weekend as far as talking with the recruits who are at the game, getting their reactions, and then looking ahead, to Arkansas on the road.
Ole Miss 26, Oklahoma 14. The 6-2 Rebels move it on to Arkansas next week. We will preview the game with Leanne coming up Wednesday. So please join us for the show at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Subscribe to the Ole Miss channel, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Hotty toddy, go Rebs.